Friends, hello. January 31st, 2022, Virtual Strangers, episode 161 is live. I, of course, am your host, Wes. With me, as always, is my good
Good, except for I'm making you disappear for a second. You know what, if you could see my face at maybe the last minute of that opening trailer, I was not good, Wes. I saw a red square appear down there, and I thought, I'm gonna smash something. Because this OBS thing has been really, I don't know I hope it's green now. I'm just crossing fingers, but it's very bizarre. It's making me want to contact Comcast and be nice to a customer service person, because it's not their fault. But
well, look, man, just for reference, if you start to have issues with it and you need to kill the Discord stream, go ahead and do it. I just need that as my opening cue, and after that, I'm off to the races.
Shouldn't affect
joining
it.
us today, special guest Brad. That is your name, right? You're Brad.
You're making you're gonna make me do this. I know it. All right, I'll get out of the way. Hi, I'm Brad.
Yes. Thank you for that. How was TwitchCon, man? You just got back, right? Not too long ago.
Yeah, TwitchCon was it wasn't bad. It wasn't too much VR. So but the actual location and everything, going to meet up with people from Live was really cool. So it's a great trip for sure.
Oh yeah, was it 1,000 degrees over there like it has been here for a solid month?
It was for 2 days, and the rest of the week it was like actually I could wear kind of like a coat, and that was amazing because I live in Florida, and I have a coat in my closet that's like gathering dust, so I can just shake it out and actually use it for once in my life. Super nice.
Nice, yeah. You got to use your one coat.
My one coat, yeah, exactly.
Uh, you going to go to Gamescom? I guess you're a traveling man, a world traveler now. Gamescom's coming up in like 6 weeks or something like that in Germany, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I wanted to go, but it's
It's Germany.
I've gone to a Gamescom before, and it was a really fun time. But I think because I just again traveled to Europe and maybe spent too much money from traveling to Europe, I'm just gonna hold off this time.
Well, I am not a world traveler, and typically I get jealous of everyone whenever one of these little trade shows pops up because I work full time here. It's hard for me to get out to these things, and but normally I get over it pretty quickly. But Gamescom's a little different this year because I've had a few personal invitations from different studios, and there's cool shit going down that I don't want to miss. But unlike PAX or CES or something like this is in Europe. It's not like a drive. It's not any kind of drive. It's quite a haul. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm probably going to miss out on that. But man, do I want to go.
Well, the good news in traveling like that is they've made flying very, very comfortable. It's not inconvenient at all, and you don't have to worry about your plane actually getting to where it's going, or maybe being canceled or delayed. Or that's my biggest thing. Is like it's such a nightmare. If you rewind 3 years, and I would think, do I want to fly overseas now? With it is today, and then God forbid you get over there and they're like, oh, we have another outbreak, and we're shutting things down, and I'm stuck in Europe. Like, it was bad enough being stuck in home. So that goes through my head. It's a crazy time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there would be. I'm sure there would be some fun to be had if we did get stuck over there for a while. We have a lot of friends over there. I'm sure that we would find some very gracious hosts that would take us in. But with that said, man, I really wouldn't want to be separated from my family in a time of catastrophe like that, you know. Anyway, got a lot to talk about here today. I mean, it must be a pretty good show. It was good enough to get our friend here to join us. So we probably should kick it off. But before we do that, I do want to convey something to everyone here who might be wondering where Eric is. Some of you, I'm sure, already know, and others might have heard something. But unfortunately, very sad to say that our brother Eric, his mother, passed away this morning, and he's tending to that right now. And he just wanted me to come on here today and tell all of you from the community, those of you who have been sending him prayers and well wishes and messages, that he absolutely loves you all for it. He very much appreciates it, and he's going to be back very soon. So if you're watching this, Eric, our thoughts and prayers. I know it's cliche, but literally, our thoughts and prayers are with you today, and my most sincere condolences to you and your family.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess there's some audio issue. They're saying there's like a buzzing or something, and they're thinking it was maybe yours. I do see Brad's bar bouncing like when we're not talking, so I don't know if that's it. I don't know that there's much we can do. I've already restarted a couple things, unplugged stuff. Hopefully, it settles itself out, or it's not too bad. But we are aware of it, or at least I am. And
I don't hear anything.
I don't hear anything either. Everything sounds great, so I don't know.
Cool. Anyway, we'll see you very soon, Eric.
Hearts with you for sure, bro. And he was really saying in the Discord to me and Wes that he's blown away by everybody's response, that everybody's been messaging him, telling him that, and he's just it really is helping him. So thanks a lot for everybody being such an awesome group of people.
It really we've been reading these stories in the news for years at this point about people losing those close to them due to the illnesses and things, but it always just seems like something on TV, right, until it happens to someone that's close to you. So
yeah,
a little bit surreal.
Yeah.
Anyway, now that we bummed everyone out, let's talk a little bit of VR, because right before we went online here, you shared something really interesting with us, Brad. This coming from our friend Tony over at scarredghost.com. We were talking about Pico 4, I think 2 weeks ago, and we were kind of wondering how far along in the design process that they might be. Would they wait for the next iteration of Quest before they decided what they're going to do with their next headset, what the controllers might look like, so on and so forth? Well, we're starting to get our first look at that now, as some images and information about the controllers have leaked. And I don't know if you have that first picture up on the screen there, Ruuts. They look pretty familiar, don't they? I mean, this looks a lot like the PSVR controller to me. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's from China, so it doesn't surprise me that it looks like it's copied from.
Oh, come on!
It is every I mean, and don't get me wrong, man. Like they'll make it really good, and that what I mean. But like Pimax, all these companies, they're just always saying, okay, what you do, you take what works and then you implement it. But it does look very, very similar to it.
So, Brad, I haven't had time to read this article yet. Is there any kind of information about what's kind of going on the inside of these things?
Well, it's pretty standard. I don't think we're gonna have like too intense controllers here. I think they're gonna be very similar to what you would get out of a Quest 2 controller. But it's interesting they have a dedicated share button compared to I don't think any other VR controllers have that yet. But we see a lot of consoles have like a dedicated share button, and it kind of works because they're owned by TikTok, and I imagine that they are going to push that TikTok thing hard, and it's going to actually work for them compared to like
right,
sharing posts to a bunch of boomers on Facebook or something. So I don't know.
That's what I was gonna say. It's gonna be way better than Facebook does. Like the TikTokers, man, they want to share everything. So.
Well, not even just that as well, but I like to keep my ear on the Chinese VR market, and ByteDance, since they purchased Pico, they've already been like pushing, which is basically free ads for them, pushing tons of Pico Neo 3 ads to the Chinese community, like in between TikToks or whatever, and it made their sales of their headsets soar. So I imagine when these hit the Western markets, you're going to see a lot of Pico for ads on the TikTok platforms as well, which is gonna just again, it's gonna be a constant cycle for them. I think it's gonna do very well.
Do you think they're going to take advantage of the fact that Quest 2 just raised their price? You know, all they have to do is come in at the same price that Quest 2 just went away from, and they're now they're the cheaper version. I don't know that they will, but that would be smart.
I started talking to so there was a story, I think it was a few months ago, from a Chinese analyst saying that Pico was planning to try to get their next headsets out before Cambria launched. And between we have this, which are these are marketing images. These are not like someone took a picture of a factory floor. These are like set up for a marketing push. And also, as you said 2 weeks ago, they were submitting FTC documents. And usually you only do that when you're really close to launching something in America, for example. So I do think it's actually bizarre, but I do that was like the biggest thing that came to my mind when I heard about the price increase of the Quest 2 was um there's it's still a great value for people, but it's going to be allow a lot better competition at different price points compare like when these new headsets come out. So I think it's going to be very likely that Pico is going to use their TikTok power and subsidize similarly to get their software push that they really need to get developers on their platform, and get developers on their platform, they need people to adopt the headsets. So, yeah.
So, whenever a company like Meta decides to make such an unprecedented move with regards to pricing, I'm sure there's a lot of factors that go into their reasoning for that, and not the least of which is the state of the economy and the inflation and all of that stuff. Do you think there's at all any kind of element here where they might be trying to play like 4D chess and set a higher price point so that when all of these new products hit the market, that they kind of follow that lead? I mean, Meta can always still sell these things at $300 and $400 on sales, during the holiday season or what have you. A few people have suggested that maybe they're trying to kind of artificially raise the price point of their future competitors, like Pico, like PSVR 2, and so on. Do you think there's any kind of merit to that theory?
No, not really. I don't think they're trying to push a price war in the other direction from their competitors. I think they're trying to push the pricing expectations for their own products, either not even just the high end, but like future quests. I think that's a big deal of what's going on. I don't think we're gonna see a $300 quest ever again, to be completely honest. I think they've developed their platform enough, which was the main point of the $300 price point. And even at $400, I guarantee they're still subsidizing per unit, even at that cost. So it's just, again, they're trying to. It's a crazy time, in my opinion, to do this. I'm still pretty shocked that they're doing this, but at the same time, I think they're going to be fine because they've already nurtured the market for that, even though there's a lot of competition coming for them.
I agree. I think that when they said last October, and on many other occasions, that Quest 2 is going to be around for a long time, I think Quest 2 is going to be around for a long time. I think Quest 3 is coming next year, and it's going to have a lot of the same features that Cambria, aka Quest Pro, is going to have, albeit probably, they'll probably do everything they can to cut costs, much like they did with Quest 2. But I don't think it's going to launch, nearly as at a nearly as affordable price point as Quest 2 is even today. So, like, I would expect, and maybe I'm wrong about this, that by the end of next year, we see Meta kind of having a full spectrum of products at different price points through the Quest 2, Quest 3, Quest Pro. By the way, I mean, that Quest Pro, has that been confirmed, or is this just people taking your speculation and things that you found from doing the research that you do?
Like the name scheme.
Yes.
The Quest Pro name scheme is, people have been calling it more in the media because Bloomberg has reported that it's going to be called Quest Pro because they did data mining, and when Bloomberg does data mining, then it's okay, you know. So
Right, right,
that's
right, right.
that's the new hotness in the media, and I think it's likely at this point for them to call it that. So
It makes
we'll see.
sense, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, you know, it's better than the first one.
Yeah.
One word, pro. So,
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense, with the exception of the fact that Zuckerberg pretty much came out during the last Connect and said this won't be a Quest or part of the Quest line, right?
man.
So maybe they'll say, well, it's the Pro line, right? It's not the Quest line, it's the Pro line. It's all semantics at this point, anyway. Anyway, let's get back to these controllers. Specifically. With regards to the Quest Pro controllers, which you did a great article on your website recently on sadlyinreality.com. I always expected these controllers to be pretty high tech, impressive things, specifically with regard to the tracking, the inside out tracking that's on board each controller. What I did not expect, however, is parity with the haptic and tactile features of the PSVR controller. I was surprised enough when it was revealed that the Quest controllers were in fact going to adopt the adaptive triggers. But recently, again, you revealed that it doesn't stop there. It's also going to have the same kind of HD haptics that we're going to see in the PSVR 2 controller. Is this going to be something that we see more going forward, like specifically with these Pico controllers? Now, I get that this is probably something that's already been finalized, but things can change pretty quickly in our space. Do you expect to see advanced haptics, advanced triggers, things like this becoming more the norm with, like, say, Deckard or the next iteration of Pico?
I think, for just to touch on Cambria or Quest Pro or whatever, the one thing I kept hearing from my sources was haptic triggers, and I kept like trying to push them, like, what does that mean exactly? And it wasn't until I got like the CAD images and everything that I could be sure, like 100% sure, that there's gonna be actual vibrations in the triggers, but I still can't confirm the triggers like I've been told by
I got
some people. So I just want to clear that up. Vibration, dedicated vibration will be high quality, definitely, in the Cambria controllers. But yeah, going to Pico 4, so what I think is happening here, in general, is this product that we're seeing here is clearly a product that was pretty far along in development, I think, even before ByteDance purchased Pico. And I don't think we're going to see a lot of the huge, like, there's going to be a lot of benefits to this headset. Like, for example, if you scroll up, you can see that they're clearly using some sort of pancake lenses, which is really interesting because they're seeming to release like a low end and high end, and they're almost going to be very similar to each other, yet they're going to implement these lenses, which is really cool to see. But I just think what they're doing with the ByteDance money is they're pushing it to market faster. They're going to subsidize this design that they already made. I don't expect these controllers to be like hugely advanced like the Cambria controllers or PSVR 2 controllers. I just think they're going to do their job well, and they're probably going to track better. But just from my talk to people, Pico still doesn't have the amazing capability to do something like an inside out track controllers like Meta can. So they're going to take some time to catch up in that factor. So
Right, some time to
You haven't had a chance to copy yet.
exactly what I was
well,
going to say.
you can
take
copy hardware,
Mm.
but it's very hard to copy like these insane intense algorithms. Like, I know when like hand tracking 2.0, that is actually so hard to do on the Quest 2. And every competitor I talk to, they're like, man, I don't know when we're gonna be able to get our own version of that out without like special depth sensors and everything. So
It's true
Um,
though. I mean, that's why I go for Intel and I go for Nvidia. There certain companies have their software down, and they're always pushing innovations like DLSS and Quest, and like they're constantly coming out with some kind of a new feature, and that is new. Airlink, whatever it is, they perfect it. Now, granted, I think they stole Virtual Desktop, but that's beside the point. Um, they integrate it in and they do it in a better way, and so like it's hard. It's really hard for me to get out of this meta. I don't want to be here anymore. I want a different headset. You know what I mean? Like I'm really hoping Cambria is better because I bitch about all the different things that happen with both of my headsets that are owned by Meta and just little things that are just annoying that shouldn't happen. So I don't know.
Brad, with these specific types of features, like you mentioned, hand tracking 2.0, do you think we'll ever see like PC support for these features through Link or AirLink?
I think it's very complicated. The only thing that you might see, because there's two sides of it. There's like the one side that it could be possibly seen on the OpenXR application side, where like applications can be using OpenXR when there's a whole lot of problems with OpenXR still. And then I don't really see things working. Uh, I don't think it's going to happen for a while. Is basically
Right.
if it does happen, honestly.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sorry for taking that side tangent there. That's just something I've kind of been curious about for a little while. One more thing on these on this Pico here before we move on. You mentioned that you think that this specific design for the Pico 4 has probably been in development for some time and was probably pretty close to being ready for market when ByteDance picked up Pico. Do you think we could see something similar here to what we saw with the first iteration of Quest, where we have a very quick turnaround, and the next iteration coming in like 12 to 15 months from now, given the fact that the hardware from the competitors, it's going to be much more advanced by this time next year. We should see well, hopefully, hopefully we see what Valve has, cooking. We should have, or be pretty close to having Quest 3 at that point. PSVR 2 will have been out for a while, and all of these are going to kind of be next level compared to what we expect Pico 4 to be. Do you think we see Pico 5 pretty quickly, based on the fact that they do have this new bankroll and the competition in the space is seemingly going to be ramping up pretty quickly?
That's a really good question, actually. I think I do think Pico 4 is like eminent. Not even just from these two things popping up, but the Chinese analyst I was talking about, he was saying this was going to happen a long time ago, and people were like, they're not going to release a new Pico headset before Cambria. That's crazy. And it's always funny. You hear these people say that, and now they're all on board. Like, oh, this is happening. What is this is happening? And I do think we might see iterations faster because there's a lot of there's a lot of fear of missing out right now in the industry because there's just like a lot more competitors. But the innovations, I'm not really sure what innovations like a Pico 5 could have in the short term, because I'm already kind of impressed that they're, for example, packing in pancake lenses into this thing. But I think new chips is like going to be a big thing for a lot of these companies. Like everyone's going to want to do like an update, which everyone tells me that they expect the new chip to come out next year for anyone that wants it from Snapdragon or whatever.
Right.
But for like improving displays and like optics, I don't see like a Pico 5 over to be a huge improvement over this Pico 4, for example.
Yeah, Qualcomm generally moves pretty quickly with regards to their mobile chips for cell phones and such. So yeah, I would be very surprised if we don't see a new chip and a new reference design in the first half of next year. Of course, it would take some time for those to start trickling out in consumer products, but typically Qualcomm moves pretty quickly, from what I understand. Uh, anyway, I want to touch on one more thing with you before we get into the headlines. We pointed out here. You know what? Never mind that. I have something I'm curious about. I want to ask you about. Last time we spoke, which was not that long ago, you told me that you are kind of accepting the new, um, you know, accepted timeline for PSVR 2. We all have kind of bought into, well, maybe it is coming in Q1 23, and that all signs have pointed to that up until recently. But now we're starting to see things that suggest that it could be a little sooner than we thought. Like, for example, we mentioned it a moment ago. There's new firmware that just hit the PS5 that has now installed the PSVR 2 user interface onto the console. We've also seen things like market approvals in Brazil, which, and again, I'm taking this one on hearsay. I didn't research it, but someone in Brazil told me that it just had got a market approval there. And when PS5 got this same approval, that it was out within 3 months. So for whatever that might mean. Furthermore, we just had another kind of roadmap put down for the rest of the year with regards to No Man's Sky updates. That they kind of gave us a little kind of picture of what they're working on for the rest of the year. And one of the things that they listed in that, and it may have just been a mistake in wording, but PSVR 2 launch was kind of one of the things mentioned in that. So again, this could all just be, coincidence, mistakes. But it does bring that little glimmer of hope back into my heart that we don't have to wait until next year to get that thing.
I think the biggest reason why like everyone was pretty shocked about the Q1 leak or whatever, and it probably was true. Because back when that was leaked, it was still like early this year, and there was still a lot of issues with supply chain. The demand was still high, and people couldn't update things fast.
They hadn't even nailed down the deal with the Toby at that point. It was still up in the air.
Yeah, that's a whole other weird thing related to that for sure. But there was also but it's kind of crazy because the supply chain for a lot of these components have almost U-turned from a lot of things not being available to no one's ordering our stuff anymore because demand has dropped so heavily. And you see this especially in the display market, especially like LCD fabs are crying right now because no one's ordering their LCDs and a lot of their mobile phone stuff. But I think that has a chance to trickle down to products that like PSVR 2. Like I think it's possible they might have cleared it up. I don't know. I don't talk to anyone related to that, but I think it's notable, especially we just had the Steam Deck announced this week that they actually bumped up all of their predictions shipments. So anyone who pre-orders a Steam Deck will get it by Christmas this year, which is like a huge improvement. Like so some people were bumped up from like Q1 to Q4 because they just cleared up. They quote unquote said they cleared up all their production issues like with components, and I think a lot of that is just going to happen slowly across the industry. So I think it's okay to be hopeful, but yeah, maybe things change. PS5s are so easy to get now, actually. I don't know if anyone's been watching that, but it's like you go on the PlayStation Direct, and now they'll last all day. You can order a PS5 all day once those go live on there. So nature is healing.
So you're saying there's a chance? No, you're absolutely right. That was the case even as far back as like 4 to 6 weeks ago. I remember specifically a couple of different places putting PS5s up and it lasting for hours and hours. And then the minute they run out, after they've been on sale all day, people start complaining about how they can't get one. It's like, come on, guys.
That's the nature of people, though. If it's hot today, they're gonna say it's too hot, and tomorrow it's too cold, and just enjoy life as it is. I say.
Agreed.
I do think the one silver lining is the one thing I did hear from people I talked to was one of the big holdups was the displays inside the thing, and they really are packing like very specialized displays from Samsung, and
that's actually one of the things I'm most excited about. All these bells and whistles are nice, but when you start talking about consumer devices with HDR OLED, 2K per eye HDR OLED, that for me specifically is very exciting. I can't wait to see what this thing looks like.
Especially with it's Sony. Look at how good the 2016 headsets still look. How is this new headset going to be on day one? It's going to be fucking amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap up our impromptu hardware talk. Thank you. Shout out Tony once again for sharing his information. Scarredghost.com, guys. It's pretty awesome. Tony has been in this space for a very long time, and he does great work. So, yeah, thank you. Anyway, we've got some cool headlines to talk about today, but we would be rude if we weren't to kick this show off the way we always do by saying hello to our friends in chat. GB, the first colossal chromatic gaming squid cat, is here. Good to see you. Hussein X is in the house. No Man's Sky in a recent content update kind of hinted at PSVR 2 release this year. Yeah, I noticed that as well. It was certainly interesting the way that was worded. They talked about the next things that they were working on, and there was like 3 of them. X, Y, and PSVR 2 launch. And then they said after that, we've got more things planned for the end of the year. So, yeah, very interesting indeed. Chuck Makes It is here. VR Hyper is here. Rob Perry is here. What's up? Onakazi is here. Pouring a briny mailing goes from Anderson Valley. All right, bro. Gamertag's here. What's up, GT? I love that Wes is so excited for PSVR 2, but his G2 is most likely visually more impressive. No, I disagree. Well, I mean, obviously we won't know until I get the thing on my face, but I mean, the resolution is pretty much 1-to-1. It's 2K per eye. I mean, a few pixels here and a few pixels there difference, but they're both 2K per eye. But my G2's rocking an LCD panel, and as we just mentioned, the PSVR 2 is rocking, Samsung manufactured 2K per eye HDR OLED panels. I assure you that there will be a marked difference in how it looks.
It's optimized for that hardware too. It's exactly what I just said about PlayStation VR 1. That's why it still looks so amazing, is because it's all about that one package. I think it's going to look better, personally.
I agree.
I think it'll remind people, especially people who've been in the VR industry long enough, to remember when the first gen headsets or whatever were all OLED, and then we kind of coasted along with LCD. I think people are going to be reminded why people loved OLED so much with that headset.
Now that you mentioned that, I'm kind of curious. Did you have a CV1, Brad?
I had an HTC Vive, which also had a OLED. So
yeah, Vive was like super bright.
Do you miss the one?
It was.
I would be shocked to hear anyone who misses those things.
I've heard people like actually defend it and like almost get in my face about it. It was more CV1 time, so they were like they had to be that way, but nah.
Yeah.
Anyway, from what I hear, SDE aside, the Vive displays were supposedly pretty bright. Not the case with Rift CV1. I started on PSVR, and of course, immediately I got the VR bug and was just all in. I built a gaming computer, bought a Rift. I was a bit underwhelmed with how the CV1 looked. I mean, the clarity was good, but it was not bright at all. They were dull. It had this kind of dullness to it, no matter what you were playing. Even though they were OLED panels, I was less than impressed with them.
The one thing, the difference between this is again going back to talking about the PSVR 1 and like how, even though that thing was pretty much put together with duct tape, like barely any resources put into it, it was an amazing experience for people. The OLED screens in that were, I believe they were already RGB stripe
They were.
OLED,
Yeah.
which allows, well, theoretically allows things to be brighter, but also that eliminates the issue with the screen door effect even more. That's why it was not as noticeable for some of the older like Vive and CV1 Rift. So
Yeah,
I imagine they're probably going with that too for the VR2.
And I mean, on top of the RGB AMOLED displays, they also use these aspheric lenses, which zero God rays, zero glare. I didn't even know what God rays were when I built my computer, but I found out very soon thereafter.
The whole community thought you were fucking with them, right? Reddit or people were like, "Come on, you've never seen a God ray? You don't know what a God ray is?"
I learned quickly. Artful is with us. Good to see you, friend. AppJ is here. He says, worst case, I can always complain that there's nothing to complain about. There you go. Chi-Town D is here. You know, we always call her Chinatown D, Ruuts, but I also noticed last night when I was looking at my After the Fall friends list that it also works out if you just move the space over a couple spots. Cheeto Wendy.
I'm gonna start calling her that. Cheeto Wendy. What's up? I like
What's
that.
up, Cheeto Wendy?
Cheeto Wendy.
Michelle B is here. Daniel Kaz is here. Parasite 82 Green says, I think April 2023. Yeah, well, what we were hearing was February, late February, early March. And I can say, you know, without giving any sources out, that multiple reliable sources on that Q1 23. But again, things are very fluid, and they have been for a couple of years now. Things can change, right? VR Spry Guy is here. Good to see you, friend. Mepper is here. Messy's here, Ruuts.
Yeah, I saw Messy earlier, actually. Messy's badass.
Good to see you, Messy. Welcome back. Who else is here? We waited too long to say hello to the chat, man. I can't scroll all the way up to the top now. Tatum's here. Good to see you, man. Got VR Legs is here. Space Dennison, what's up? Distract. The Pico controllers look nice and light. Yeah, man, they it's a sleek design for sure. I think they look nice. Who else? PD, what's up? Paradise Decay, good to see you, friend. Ben Stanley is here. VR Demon is here. Just Joe. Well, it's not just you, Joe. There's other people.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Sutrabla is here. Wolveraza is here. Good to see you, Wolving.
Silver's here. Silver says, I'm here. Up, Silver.
Hello, Silver. Mickey Barrios is here as well. Varglesoft is here. My sister's here. She says to send Eric her condolences. I certainly will. All right, I think we're getting pretty close to the top here. Spry Guy, I think I already said hello to. Berbercat's here. Chuck Makes It is here. 12th, the Zenithian Game Cat is here. Sim is here.
Traveler Man says, I'm here. I was just eating some biscuits and gravy. Now you're making me hungry, Traveler Man.
We always know that you're here, Traveling Man. Dan 3A is here. Mike Newton is here. Bat 54 is here.
Gary says we're all here. What's up, Gary?
We should just change this from, you know, greeting the chat segment to roll call. We should make them tell us if they're here.
I'm telling you, I think we need a magic mirror, and we just start calling people's names out, like in Romper Room. That's the answer. Let's do it.
Artie Donahue is here, as is Tiffany. Good to see you, Tiffany. Anyway, now that long introduction's out of the way, why don't we get into the business? The business. Let's talk headlines.
Diamonds look fake. Your words are sinking down in my chest. What are you thinking? I don't know you anymore. We're alone now. And before you go, just turn off the lights. Just turn off the lights. Just turn off the lights. I don't know you anymore. We're alone now. And before you go, just turn off the lights. Just turn off the lights. Just turn off the lights.
Community contempt for VRChat update leads developer to, quote, reprioritize internal roadmap. This from Ben Lang at Road to VR. VRChat, one of VR's most popular social games, released an update this week that has struck a nerve with its community. The long-running social VR application has cultivated a large community of dedicated players since its release in 2017. And while the studio behind the project has largely made steady and welcomed improvements to the platform, this week it struck a nerve with its community. On Tuesday, the studio released the VRChat, quote, security update, which added new anti-cheat software to prevent users from using modified versions of VRChat. Quote, malicious modified clients allow users to attack and harass others, causing a huge amount of moderation issues, the studio explained. Even seemingly non-malicious modifications complicate the support and development of VRChat and make it impossible for VRChat creators to work within the expected documented bounds of VRChat. However, not all modified versions of VRChat are malicious. Members of the app's community say that many of them add features that make the game better, and some add accessibility options that allow users to enjoy VRChat that might not otherwise be able to. Further, some claim the anti-cheat solution being implemented will reduce the game's performance and raise privacy concerns. To show their disdain for the update, a vocal portion of the game's community flocked to the game's Steam store page and collectively review bombed the title with negative reviews, reducing the app's recent review score to just 18%, which Steam highlights in red as overwhelmingly negative. Although Steam includes features designed to prevent review bombing, they don't appear to have been triggered. In any case, the studio behind VRChat says it has heard the message from the community loud and clear. Less than a day after the update went live, the studio updated the announcement of the VRChat security update, acknowledging the community's concerns and announcing plans to pivot internal plans in order to build out some of the most used features that were only available via modified versions of the game. However, the studio said outright that it does not plan to roll back the security update. So, Brad, as you well know, my friend Ruuts and I here are noobs to VRChat. And, the experience that we had last week, we really couldn't tell you how much of that was native and how much of it was modded. Why are people so upset about this update? What kind of mods are being frequently used that people are getting so upset about?
I think the biggest ones that people would use normally are like things that allow them to tweak like the menus, or just it's mostly quality of life things for sure. I've been banned before for getting caught using some of those mods. VR. Let me just first say preface. Let me preface that VRChat has always been against modding in an official capacity. They just never went the full length to literally add an anti-cheat to stop people from doing it. But it so the mining community though has been able to add features to VRChat that VRChat themselves would not implement because of obviously there's a timeline that developers can have set for their platform. And some of those features that people might want might not align with a developer's timeline. For example, before something called OSC support was added, you could have you could buy a mod. You can activate eye tracking, face tracking, and like B haptic suits, and these were all mods that you needed to use with VRChat to use them. So basically, we're just kind of back at that state where a lot of the community was using mods, which is why there's such a big, overwhelmingly negative review bomb right now, because people feel that all it comes down to is I feel is there's two sides to this. One, VRChat as the developer that runs this multiplayer platform, they have every right to control what happens on their platform. But there's also the other side of it where, due to the fact that it's such a enthusiast, community-driven game, you have to wonder how much does the community, like, when something becomes as such a big enigma in VR, such as VRChat, does the community kind of own the platform at that point, or do the developers? And that's kind of what's been the big argument right now, I think.
I think the developers are finding out it's the community. That's why they were such a knee-jerk, quick reaction. Although I did notice exactly what you said in what they said. They're not backtracking on this. They still want to implement these things. They just realize that they're going to have to do it in a better way than just saying we're getting rid of everything. Because, like, I don't know if this is something that you was a mod or something, but when we went into VR, to VRChat, you like jumped up on the wall and you like sat down and you like hung your legs off the wall, and like all those little things that put you in that environment in a different way than I was in. I'm just this guy without all these trackers and all these mods. I don't know if all that goes away with that. I would imagine that my friend Josh is so into this area of VR. That's all he does. And I guarantee he'd flip out. Like, this is a big thing, right? So.
Well, it's like, imagine, and this is such a simple comparison, but imagine if like Bethesda one day decided you cannot mod Skyrim anymore, despite there's like a huge community around like Skyrim modding and all these things. And I know it's kind of messed up to compare a single player experience to a multiplayer platform. But again, it's just because there's literally giant communities based around modding and developing things. And I always hear people describe VRChat as the Wild West of things that they can just make things for, whether it be content that follow the terms of services or things that they would need to mod into so they can push their experiments further. So.
I know you're working on quite a few things in VRChat. You're an avid user. Did this update break anything that you're working on?
Nothing I'm doing. I mostly been doing sort of the simple things to what some of these modders and users would do, but it is just frustrating because I just think I imagine I know the reasons why they're getting so stingent about mods all of a sudden, because again, mods were never officially allowed by terms of services, but people have done it anyway. But you know, things are changing, and I think there's a lot of investor pressure going on for a lot of different platforms, and it's very difficult to monetize things when you have mods that might be able to bypass that. So
Yeah, hindsight's always 2020, right? And it would have been great if they could have done something like this a lot earlier in the life cycle of the app. But here we are now. VR's blowing up now, and there are privacy concerns, there are security concerns. So I get why they're doing it. But you know, as they have, I'm sure, learned this past week, they're going to have to pick their game up, right? Because a lot of these features that they have now taken away, people are going to be, demanding that they come back in some form or fashion. And again, I don't know specifically what they are, but it's pretty obvious people are pretty upset about this.
Let me ask
and
you.
I do. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you if you, I mean, you probably not because you're such a big VR chat person, but somebody in the chat just asked a question that kind of makes me think, what about Neos? Do you think this, if they were to take a hard stance and they were like, it really pushing people away and pissing people off, do you think it pushes people to that platform? And maybe they are, because I know the UI is kind of what's holding them back from what I've heard, but a lot of people rave about Neos, Skiva being one of them.
I think this week has been, if you had a competing social platform this week, you actually got a huge bump in users. Neos was one of them, and I'm noticing that more people, even though they're, again, nowhere near the insane numbers VRChat gets daily, but a lot of people were able to check out these other competing platforms like Neos. Neos had their all-time peak of almost 1,500 players, which is pretty big for that platform. And a lot of people, they were just testing out different platforms. I think that was really cool. I think Chill Out VR was another one that people were interested into. One thing I really want to mention though is I saw something in the chat about, well, they're adding all these features to make up for the most quality of life things that a lot of these mods gave people, and I think that's a great response right now. But I think the issue comes again from, like, we don't really know what features people are gonna want, and if those, like, for example, when the face tracker came out from the HTC Vive, or HTC Vive released the face tracker, a lot of people that are into social VR was like, I want this working now. I want to buy this thing. I want to express my avatar in this certain way. And it wouldn't be for like 2 years that VRChat would implement the feature just to use that. So again, people resorted to mods because there was this new functionality that came out, either do the hardware side or whatever. And I kind of see that as that's always what mods have kind of been, is if there is something new that people might think of or want to implement because there's a new hardware, then you can just mod it in. And I think there's always going to be a lag between a professional capacity from a huge dev team of what their priorities are and adding features, and what a modding community that can just do it themselves will do. So it's a hard thing to balance, I think.
Do you think there's a solution in kind of the in-between space from where they're at right now, and not completely like open sourcing it, but kind of having this in-between space where they have this smaller community of registered users that can have like a version, like a beta version of VRChat that they can mod and then submit the mods to the dev team to check it out, and then we could have approved mods. And it would take a little bit longer than it would have taken before, but you're not waiting 2 years to have features added.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of multiplayer games do this, where they'll have a like a verified version, like a verified branch that would have easy anti-cheat to be the basic one, but they would allow another version that is not cross-platform with the main version, where it would be like the unofficial. Like I think Master Chief Collection does this, where you can have a modded version and mod Master Chief Collection and launch that and play with other users that might have mods installed, but the base experience still has the anti-cheat stuff. I think that would be a pretty cool compromise. I don't think it's gonna happen, but yeah, I think it would be a cool compromise to do that.
Yeah, it would kind of solve the problem because I mean we all know what the problem really is. It's the larger platforms. It's mainly the PC community that's upset about these things, but these things are largely being implemented because of the flat screen version and the Oculus Quest version bringing so many users into their community. So yeah, hopefully they'll start to consider solutions such as this without having to lose too many users first, right?
And yeah, I just it's frustrating because VRChat is like such an overly enthusiast part of the VR community. Like I would say, I mean, I've said this to you guys when I showed you around, but people literally make VRChat their lifestyle once they get into it. Like it's people are buying everyone that makes VRChat their lifestyle. They're spending all their money on like full body tracking, like haptics, eye and face tracking. These are people that are way more enthusiasts normally than a lot of these other platforms have, and I think that just goes too well and hand in hand with the modding community. So it's just it's difficult. Like how are they just wanting to sacrifice their enthusiast base? Like for what? Like I don't know what they're trying to get it for, So
Yeah, I get you. Because what do they have without the creators, right? I mean, it's a great set of tools for creative people to create amazing worlds and experiences. But without the creators, what do you have? Not much, right?
and it is fair to say there is like you can't parallel the creator community too much with the modern community. That they tend to be, I mean, not all the time, but they tend to be separate things. But for sure, I do think that a lot of the greatest features that would eventually come to VRChat was, again, inspired by a lot of mods that happened to VRChat beforehand. So, yeah.
In a related, but maybe in a little different direction here, I'm curious about something I've been wanting to ask you about VRChat. And again, this is just the noob in me being curious. When you showed me all this stuff, when we went in there, and you showed me like bedrooms where people will sleep and bars where people will hang out and drink, it kind of threw me back to my college days, back when we used to all get together every weekend and chill out and ingest various chemicals and listen to music and watch movies. That was the one thing that was really missing from all of these spaces for me, is that there was no like way to put music on or way to watch things together. Do any of these rooms or any of the ones that you're familiar with have like YouTube players embedded in them or anything like that, like say a big screen would have?
Oh yeah, all of them have video players. Usually you get to press a certain button hidden somewhere and they'll have a big screen. There's also like theater worlds dedicated to it, but yeah, you can definitely just play music and watch stuff together, and that tends to be what happens.
Who's up for VR chat parties, ladies and gentlemen? Because I can't make it out to town anymore, but I can sure as hell put my headset on.
Yeah, people lay together in the beds and they have a screen on the ceiling. They all look up and just laying on their dirty floor in VR.
That sounds awesome, man. Sincerely, that sounds great. Like, I'd love a place where I could just chill with people. And we always kind of use big screen for this stuff before, but you can only get 8 people in big screen, right? So like, I mean, VR chat, are there any kind of limitations on how many people can hang out in these rooms?
The hard limit is like 80 people, but yeah. But depending on how complex the avatars are, things might start breaking down a little bit for computers. So
dude, I'm good with 20 to 30 and I'm straight.
Oh yeah, that's easy for sure.
Nice. All right, guys, this is the end of Virtual Strangers. I'm not playing games anymore. We're just going to hang out in VR chat every weekend. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, it doesn't seem like there's going to be any kind of short-term solution for everyone's issue with this update. Hopefully, the dev team are, you know, trying to come up with creative ways to appease their community, and stay tuned. We'll let you know when anything changes. Yupitergrad 2, The Lost Station. First gameplay video has emerged. This from Arthan's VR. Yupitergrad 2, The Lost Station is coming to Steam PCVR, and developer publisher Game Dust is hyping the release with some news and the first gameplay video. According to the developer, the most important thing in the game is to build something more around it, and that they want the game to continue to be light and full of humor. These elements are built by narration, dialogue, the characters we meet, and how we'll explore the environment, Game Dust said. We are currently designing and writing these elements, so they're not yet ready to be shown to the world. But we want to show you something else. And that, of course, is the clip that we just watched. Serving as the sequel, this title will reportedly contain new challenges, pitfalls, and dangers. There's no release date for the game on the Steam page at the moment, but you can wishlist it. Yupitergrad 2, of course, will also be releasing for MetaQuest 2. Ruuts, one of our biggest surprises in, 2020 this one came out. Really Game Dust had done a few smaller VR titles before, but nothing quite on the quality level of Yupitergrad. And we were just talking during the break there about, as many cool things as Yupitergrad had about it. It's really unique. Really, just this game and Windlands, I would say, the original Windlands, are really the only two that really kind of take the old school platforming from like the old, 2D days and bring it into VR in a grappling game. And as many times as people are going to say Spider-Man with guns whenever this thing comes out, this game appears that it's going to be so much more than that, right?
Spider-Man with guns. I'll tell you what, man. Like even Windlands was amazing. Windlands 2, the swinging around, the platforming. But this one took it another level, right? Because you have the way you can zip yourself up and let yourself down. You're swinging around your you got those jet propulsions that, like, there's different things you have to do. It's so similar but so different, in my opinion, to Windlands 2, and I feel like it's a little bit more advanced in some ways. But it's so good, so fun to move around these environments. And I was saying during the break, I'm really looking forward to the exploration. Looks like this is more of an exploration thing than the first one, right?
Yeah, and it looks like, and again, this is very early alpha footage. The game could be very different by the time we get our hands on it, but it looks like a proper sequel to, and it's giving us all the things that we typically ask for in these swinging / parkour games. I mean, whether you're talking about Windlands or you're talking about Stride or To the Top, or we could go on. We always ask for the same things with regards to sequels. I mean, other than co-op, obviously. We want bigger levels. We want more diversity in enemies and in storytelling. But most of all, we want more facets to the gameplay, aka combat. And I think that's probably the biggest focus of what they showed us here today, was that we got guns on our plungers now, Ruuts.
Who doesn't want guns on your plungers? That's a whole thing too. Bradley, you were saying you hadn't played the first one. You got these plungers on this space station. That's the whole thing, is like, you get there, when the first one, you get there and you find out that you see dead cosmonauts everywhere. And I'm on a space station. I'm wondering, why do they set, like, there's a lot of death, but they have all these pitfalls and traps everywhere. Very crazy. But definitely, I don't know, man. It's a super, super innovative game, and I'm psyched for the second one. Did this trailer, Brad, convince you to try the first one?
Yeah, I know. It reminds me of, as I said, apparently a lot of people have said this, but it does. I already forgot the name of the game I was going to reference. It looks like the
Jet Island.
Yeah, Jet Island, and that game is sick. No, it looks like a really good concept in general. Like, I think anytime you figure out a cool locomotion technique, it always makes your game a lot more fun, and you build off of that. It seems like what they're doing for the second one, especially. So looks good.
Yeah, and it's very similar to other grappling games. But it's a bit more refined, not only in the control scheme and how it feels, but with the modifications and things uh, that you get. It's not just grappling. Of course, there is no like running locomotion. Like everything you do with your grappling hooks. But I mean, there are water levels where you're using kind of like jet propellers on your arms to kind of swim through things. And again, a lot of it, at least in the original, was timing based. Roots, are you afraid at all that with the addition of like the combat elements and enemies, that we might lose some of that original platforming goodness that the game gave us?
I'm not worried about it, but it's a possibility. I mean, that's, anytime you have a good formula that works really well and you add something that everybody's asking for, you have that potential to fuck it up. But they did such a good job with the first one. I have high hopes that that's not going to be the case. And Sim in the chat says their plunger has no gun. Unclogging the sink isn't exciting at all. Well, I'll tell you what. Try the toilet. See if that gets exciting for you. That can sometimes be a gem.
Anyway, those of you who haven't tried Yupitergrad out there, it's available on all major VR platforms. Things like what, $10 or $15? It's super cheap. Now, with that said, it's not a very long game, but there's a lot of extra content with regards to the what's the name of the alternative mode, Roots? I don't even remember anymore.
I don't know. It's a time trial, and you can actually do it against other people on it. That's where things get crazy because he added all the a lot of things to kill you and get grinded up, right? Like you have like a slow way to go, or you could try to take the shortcut as you're racing your friend, but the shortcut goes through all sorts of crazy shit that's going to kill you and start you over at the beginning. So it was it was really fun.
Yeah, and much like me in VRChat this weekend, the difficulty level is going to be super high. Anyway, really looking forward to learning more about Yupitergrad from our friends at Game Dust. You know what to do if you want to learn more. Click the red button, ring the bell. We'll definitely be coming back to this one. But that isn't the only sequel that we learned some things about this week, as new Resident Evil 9 leaks have depicted the game's new setting. Now, of course, whenever we're talking about leaks, I hate using YouTube cliches, but take it with a huge grain of salt, guys. We don't know. We won't know until we see official information whether or not this stuff turns out to be true. But this article from Biohazard Declassified does have quite a bit of very interesting information about the next title in the Resident Evil series. On June 15, 2021... Oh, wait a minute. Am I on the right thing here? I got the wrong article up. What the hell, man?
This one?
Is this the article? This is the article that you had.
Resident Evil Dead by Daylight content live stream.
I think I might have linked the right one in Discord.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Just a second here, people. Bear with me. Thank you, Bradley. See, I knew bringing you here was going to be a good idea. Well, just did, but there we go. All right. So again, this is from Biohazard Declassified. There's also a very good article up on comicbook.com for those of you who are interested. So it appears that we may have some new leaked information on a brand new Resident Evil title that isn't a Resident Evil 4 remake. And apparently, this isn't the end of the Winters story. Resident Evil has been one of the hottest topics in the gaming world in the past couple of months. With the announcement of Resident Evil Village Gold Edition and RE4 Remake, fans have been hyped on any new information regarding the next installments for their beloved survival horror franchise. But it looks like we're about to get some information on a brand new Resident Evil title that fans weren't expecting to get anytime soon. Now we have to preface this with a warning. Preface this with a warning. This is some of the earliest leaked information about a Resident Evil title that is currently in the works and that has not yet been confirmed by Capcom. So please take anything with the tiniest grain of salt, as none of this is confirmed, and we shouldn't expect any information on the next installment for the mainline series just yet. Now, I do speculate that Resident Evil 9 is in the works besides the Resident Evil 4 remake, as Capcom is known to have multiple teams working on multiple projects for a single IP at one time, especially for Resident Evil. According to someone who claims to have leaked information that popped up on 4chan's general gaming board earlier in the wee morning hours of July 28th, a thread popped up claiming that Resident Evil 9 is in the works and that it has the working title of Resident Evil Apocalypse. The game's setting will be a ghost town in the West where a certain investigation will take place. It'll have environments such as caves, a river, a small town, and a camping site. Enemies will look like some kind of deformed creatures with a huge emphasis on body horror. The source goes on to say that they'll resemble mythological creatures with horns, and locals will call them Wendigo or Goatman. Enemies will be mimicking human voices and could even transform into a friendly NPC. They can perfectly mimic human voices, and the player will be forced to look at their behavior to know if they're enemies. It also states that BOWs can get close to a player appearing as a friendly NPC if that person died, unbeknownst to the player. The game will also have a forest that is creepy and unsettling. The leak states that it's easy to get lost without a map. Sometimes you'll hear someone walking behind you, but the creature isn't there when you turn around. But sometimes it is there, for real. There apparently will also be a mechanic where players can force some doors to open, lock them, barricade them, and have the use of melee breakable weapons. The leak also says that one of the early bosses is named Barghest, which is apparently a giant black dog with a twist, but less intelligent compared to the other monsters. It also seems that Resident Evil is keeping the tradition of having a femme fatale antagonist named Glastig by the locals. She has a really beautiful design with green and gold ornaments and a morning green gown. This is very peculiar, seeing as she shares the same name as a mythical creature from Scottish mythology. According to the source, the player will receive help from a woman/bioweapon named Holder, who serves as a merchant type character. She'll guide you through the forest, tell you some of the town's history when you show her treasures, and things like that you find along the way. She will also teach the player different herb combinations. Now listen, there'll be 7 herb types, 7, which can be combined with each other to achieve various effects. This is very interesting to not when you take into the account. Very interesting to not. Okay.
To know, maybe.
To know. Okay, thank you. When you take into account that Resident Evil has only ever had 4 variations of herbs in the franchise, so seeing such a drastically different number is very alarming to see as a Resident Evil veteran, for sure. I disagree with that. I think it's cool if they're going to bring more herb types in. That's called depth, my friends. The monsters fear this woman, just as they fear and respect Glastig, and won't come close. This serves as an explanation why they can't enter the save zones and rooms. The plot will be about the 9th moon phase, and the nickname Apocalypse came from that idea. The moon serves as this game's symbol and will probably appear on the logo. Now, like we said, this is from a very early leak. Information in the thread itself did not garner a lot of replies, and there's quite enough information to back up this claim. Something else that I don't know if they even mentioned it in this article. I don't think that they do. Something else that I read on a similar article claimed that this game is also going to have you're going to be able to have an option for whether you want to play it in first person or third person, which is something that we have heard is coming up for Village. That Resident Evil Village is getting a third-person mode. Apparently, this one's going to launch with the option to play it either way, which bodes well for us as VR gamers. Bradley, are you a fan of Resident Evil?
I'm not like a mega fan, but I've played a few of the games. I've been enjoying all these remakes that come out, so I can experience those games, especially because I have so many friends that are like obsessed with the originals, and yeah, I'm a newborn fan, you could say.
Have you played any of them in VR?
I played the one that released for PSVR, which was
Seven?
seven. Yeah, 7. That one was
Jack.
yeah. That one was crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, that is my favorite title. Even still to this day, it's my favorite title, and not just because it's in VR. Because as I'm sure you know, Resident Evil 2 can be played in VR, 3 can be played in VR, 8 can be played in VR on PC, and even 7. That same game can be played on PC with full motion controller support, which is pretty awesome. But you know, Ruuts, one of the things I really like about 7 that make it so near and dear to my heart is it's like 1. You know, when people talk about Resident Evil, the title for the game, it was derived from the fact that you are exploring this huge manor, this residence, and that was kind of my favorite thing about the first game. I don't know if you remember the first one, but it had this really cool creaky door animation. Every time you would go into a different room, it would stop and just creak open.
I do remember it a bit. I remember it was pretty fucking hard as hell, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I loved it. But, you know, as the game got more popular, it kind of got away from what I loved about it, or some of the things that I loved about it. Now, there's a lot that I like here with these leaks. I think the Wendigo is a great idea for like a common enemy. And there are elements I like about Resident Evil Village that they're very clearly pulling over into this. But I'm going to be concerned. I got to admit, you know, kind of the saving grace for me with Village was the fact that I got to explore this castle. Except from the sounds of this, you're going to be in some kind of like small town area. There isn't going to be some huge, manor or estate to explore. Does that bother you at all?
I don't know. This is my thought. Like, and I haven't played them all, but everyone that I have played has had some, and I guess 4 maybe didn't, but like even 2, right? Wasn't that the one with the police station? You had this huge police station to search around. They always have something big. So maybe, you know, there'll be some rich Bill Gates character that lives on that island, and that's where the only manor that you go search. I don't know. I think that there'll be something to do, but I think there's more of a chance. Oh, the love chat is back.
Yeah.
We gotta fix that.
All right, so
But yeah, so what was I gonna say? I'm getting distracted by the love chat here.
you were talking about the police station in Resident
There we
Evil
go.
2.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think there'll be something there that's going. But like somebody in the chat was saying, there's, you know, it sounds more like this is something that they were talking about, brainstorming is what Awesome Tatum said. Pre-production brainstorming type of storylines, very detailed. This is my first thought as they're saying we're so far away from any of this. It's so detailed. It's too detailed. You know what I mean? Like either this is some huge leak or it's probably not real, because I don't think that anybody's releasing this information this early. I could be wrong, but
Well, for what it's worth, there is precedent here. This leak did come from 4chan, and there have been other information about previous releases leaked in this same manner.
Oh.
Well, so it could very well end up being all bullshit. But at least we do know that there is some kind of precedent here.
Sure.
Let's say it's true. Are you down for like Resident Evil meets Blair Witch?
If it's done right. See, I don't have any specific. I mean, everything that they said sounds really cool, especially in VR. The fact that they're going to be taking advantage of this Tempest audio, and they're going to have all these sounds all around you, and you're going to turn around and nothing's there, and you're going to get so used to nothing being there, and then all of a sudden it's fucking there, and that's going to scare the hell out of you. I think it sounds really cool. You know what I mean? And I have faith. I have enough faith in the series that no matter what they do, it doesn't worry me.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that there's something to be said that, you know, if this one follows suit and it does support VR, that this is probably going to be the first one developed with next gen VR in mind. You know, with all the advanced features, advanced haptics, and especially eye tracking. Eye tracking, again, we've talked many times about what a profound impact it can have on horror games. You know, if they know where you're looking, they know where you're not looking, and lots can happen where you're not looking.
Yeah, and it used to be that you had to be facing a certain way. Now it's going to be able to, if you're looking out just to the side a little bit, they'll know, right? So
yeah, and you know, when I brought this up to those developers at PolyArc, they said something pretty profound actually that got me thinking, and it's true. It's really I think it was Chris Alderson. He said, for me, it's not so much about where you're not looking, but about what's in your peripheral. So if they know exactly what you're looking at, they can have stuff going on over here that you barely see, and then when you look at it,
it's gone.
You know, it's frozen. Yeah. Pretty cool.
You know, one thing I wanted to I just have this idea when you mentioned that like enemies can apparently pretend to be your
oh god, that's cool
NPC
too.
friends.
Oh god, yeah.
Well, I was just thinking like a lot of these VR headsets have built-in mics, and they're gonna get better. It'd be kind of creepy if like they could record some of the things you say like out loud during play sessions, and then distort that and have enemies like scream your own distorted voice at you. That'd be freaky.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, well, what's really freaky, I'll tell you off air. I don't want to spoil things for people, but your timing there was pretty spot on. But I do want to correct myself before we move on. That wasn't Chris Alderson that was telling me that. This was a conversation I was having with Doug from Fun Train, who just put out the Twilight Zone game on Quest. So, yeah, my bad. I got that wrong. Doug Neighbors from Fun Train. By the way, Ruuts, the Twilight Zone game, they just put a big patch out for and literally addressed every complaint we had about the game. There's high-resolution textures now. There's variability in the first boss. They've improved the gunplay, everything.
That's awesome. Well, like we always say, that's a sign of a good developer that actually listens to, you know, and fixes the problems, right? And they do it timely. That's awesome.
Yeah. Kudos to Fun Train.
Yeah.
Anyway, Simplex is not so not so keen to spoil things for everyone, but Simplex says this thing that you're talking about, Brad, with the voice recording, that's in Twilight Zone VR.
Huh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So literally, as I was about to correct myself, you start talking about a feature that's in the game that I was about to talk about.
And you've got the background for it. Crazy.
And I've got the background for it. Exactly.
That sounds really cool. I gotta try that out just for that one gimmick. It sounds so cool.
It's very basic how they use it, but it works. It works, and it shows you the potential for something like that, because, you know, the Twilight Zone episodes are pretty short. You barely have time to forget that you did that, and that's what makes it effective, is because you forgot. That they distract you with so many things, you kind of forget that you did it, and then when they use it, it's kind of, you know, it has a good effect. Now, if you could do this in a game like Resident Evil, that's, you know, dozens of hours, you know, and you just lay down a few voice tracks at the front of it, and you forget all about it by the time you get into the end game, and then you start hearing shit like enemies saying your name and things like that. It really does kind of have a jarring effect on you.
Yeah, crazy.
Simplex says it happens at the very beginning. Yes, it happens at the beginning, but they don't use it till the end of the episode. Anyway, looking forward to learning more about Resident Evil 9. I do hope at least some of this stuff is true. But with that said, why don't we move on to a sequel that we have a little bit more solid information on?
Yeah, and that everybody in chat's been asking all day about.
Really?
I'm feeling so strange. Been feeling this way for the longest time. Close my mind. Empty space outside time, leading me to realize I'm alive. At what cost?
Stress Level 0. Bonelab is now playable from logos to credits. This from Harry Baker, Upload VR. Bonelab is now playable from the opening logos to the end credits, according to Brandon J. Lash from Stress Level 0. In a tweet this week, Lash said that the game is playable from logos to credits, and it has been for a while. The focus of development is now polish, bugs, feature creep, polish. Bonelab is the much anticipated sequel to Stress Level Zero's 2019 title Boneworks, a physics-based action-adventure game that set a new standard for physical interaction in VR. Spanning across an aperture-inspired collection of test chambers, Boneworks gave every object in the world a sense of weight and tactile handling. While Boneworks was released exclusively for PC VR, the follow-up Bonelab is said to release on PC VR and Quest 2 this year, and potentially even PSVR 2 later down the line. Bonelab was officially unveiled in April at the MetaQuest Gaming Showcase, described as an action-adventure physics game with a brand new story and 2 years of innovation and interaction engine progress building on Boneworks' foundation. With the bulk of Bonelab complete and the focus now on finalizing features and squashing bugs, it looks increasingly likely Bonelab will make its 2022 release window as planned. Still no word on a more specific date, but we could hear more at Meta's annual Connect conference, which usually takes place late in the year. Just a few weeks after the Bonelab's reveal, it had been wishlisted more times than Boneworks. We also know that the physics won't be downgraded on Quest 2 because of the headset's strong CPU. When it comes to visuals, store listing screenshots gave us an early indication at the differences we can expect between the PCVR and Quest 2 release. So a lot of information coming out about Bonelabs in the recent weeks and months. And obviously a very highly anticipated title on multiple VR platforms. Some of our early questions have already been answered, like, is this going to be a complete sandbox or is it going to have a campaign? We now know it's going to have a campaign. We know that the story is going to be a direct sequel to the Boneworks game, and we know that there's going to be multiple game modes, and it's going to be, according to the studio, it's going to be about 1/3 campaign, about 1/3 like the sandbox / lab, and then 1/3 mods, whatever that means. We also know that the mods are going to be supported through a specific SDK on Oculus Quest 2. Now, Bradley, I haven't ever asked you this, but I got to imagine you're probably a fan of the original Boneworks, right?
I think it's great. I think it's great. I actually had trouble when I first played it to complete it to completion, like a lot of people I hear. I think
Yeah,
it's an
I didn't
important
finish
title.
it. I
Yeah,
played deep into it. I didn't finish it.
I think it's a very important title to have, but I struggle to see it as the most. I don't. I like Half-Life Alex better, is all I'm gonna say.
What's weird
Oh,
is
yeah.
is like Wes has said in the past, and I think where they nailed it in Boneworks is it the world really. There is very few games that you get that immersion in that, like you get in that world and it's like you're there. It really does feel like you're in that world. It has its issues, but I think Half-Life Alex, the problem, or I guess not the problem, what Half-Life Alex has over Boneworks is it has a really good story to pull you through, and acting, and like, and they can say what they want with Boneworks. I know they came out and they said it's not a tech demo, but the story is all told on monitors in little places, and I still don't know what's really going on in that whole thing. And I've played several hours, so at some point the story's important. So hopefully the second one, which I think it sounds like it, is going to have everything that we wanted from the first one. And maybe they've listened to Wes, and the file cabinets aren't going to go flying across the room when you try to open a drawer. Because they really they nailed the physics. The physics are amazing. They did set a bar, but they also needed to find that line to scale things back, like with the double-handed weapons feeling weird. And so there was still some weirdness, but I don't get me wrong, amazing. And I really look forward to the second one, the sequel. I think it's going to be amazing. I was telling you you guys in between the scene that I didn't know it was going to come. I didn't know for sure it was coming to Rift. So hearing that they're saying it in this for, Quest 2 and Rift, that made me feel better. So
Yeah, yeah. There's actually, if you look into it out there, you can see side by sides of the Quest version versus the PC version, and it's not that different, man. I mean, there's lighting differences, but that's the main difference between the two versions. Very good looking game for a Quest game, and we have been critical of the original Boneworks. For all that it does well, and you're right, it's one of the most immersive experiences I ever had, and it's not just because of the physics, just the visuals and sound and the worlds, they feel real when you're in there. But with that said, like, it is a tech demo. It's as much a tech demo as it is a game, and the physics are a bit overdone in it. They don't compensate for the lack of touch and feel that you get in real life. So like you're saying, you'll open a drawer and you'll pull filing cabinets over, or things you would never do in real life because you would be able to feel it and know when to stop pulling. Climbing is terrible. I hate climbing in Boneworks. It's hard. It's difficult.
the body, they need to get rid of give you the option for inverse kinematics, unless they fixed it. Because like Gary was saying in the chat, he didn't like it. I didn't like it either. That was one of the weirdest things, as you were climbing and your arms were doing weird stuff. I would rather just not see my arms.
Your feet were dangling
Yeah.
when you were climbing.
I remember one of the first things, my first playthrough of that game when it came out, I was like, iron stomach, never got motion sick. But there was this one bug where, due to the physics of the body, my body got stuck to this rotating wheel.
Ooh.
I could not get it out. So it kept like flipping me all over the place in a circle. And I literally had to stop playing because I literally couldn't fix the problem from
God.
that.
That
crazy.
sounds like so much fun. Anyway, there's a lot that I do like about Boneworks. There's a lot of Easter eggs in the game, and it's a technical marvel. And for something like this to come to Oculus Quest or MetaQuest, even if it was only going to be a sandbox, which we know it's not, even if it was, Brad, I mean, my interest level is peaked just based on I want to see what they can do with that hardware. This looks like it's going to be breaking new ground on that specific chip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I even heard like they're not even using application Space Warp yet, and like that was like a big thing at Meta Connect last year that they could like games could if they used it double their frame rates or whatever. And they're not even using that, so they're doing some really intense like optimization. I'm very curious about the mod, the big deal about their modding thing going on, their cross-platform mods. Like it kind of gives me the impression that they want to do like a sort of like a Gary's mod using their
Like
physics
half
engine.
balance. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it could be very cool to see that for sure.
Now, could you imagine that, like the Source 2 workshop, only with like Boneworks physics, and I'm sure there'll be a slider for you to turn gravity up and down and manipulate it in many ways. A lot of creative people out there, I'm sure, are going to come up with some cool applications for that.
Yeah. Super cool.
Anyway, happy to report that this game coming, or apparently coming in 2022. Man, the Love Bot is busy today.
I was just about to hit that fucker down, and PD, thank you for hitting.
Thanks, PD. Twitcher, the single-player game cat. I never understand the clamor for full-body inverse kinematics. I'd much rather have floating hands than bad IK. Let's face it, most IK is pretty bad. It is, and when it is bad, I agree. In most cases, I would rather just turn it off. But then you play a game like Farpoint, which is just the aim controller, but it's got your full body spot on, and it looks normal, and it does add to the immersion a bit, or at least it does for me. Everyone's different, obviously. Ruuts, what do you think about this specific comment here? Is inverse kinematics, is that something that's important to you, or would you just be happy with floating hands?
I'm like you. If it's done well, I'll have it. I just the biggest thing, and we say this with everything for the devs, just give us options. Give me the option to turn it off. Even if it's the most spot on shit in the world, I might not want to use it. And if it's not spot on, let me turn it off. And what's crazy is the ones that suck, and I wouldn't say Boneworks sucks. I think it can be awkward at times, but they actually did a good job. But there's some that are really bad, and like that's like if you got rid of it, think about how much headroom the developers would have without your janky body that's trying to do whatever it's supposed to be trying to do. So I would rather not have it if it's not done well. But I'd say there's a handful of them that do it well. One of them's Farpoint. Lone Echo does a good one as well. But there's not too many of them out there. So.
Yeah, and I'd also point out that we can tell from the footage in the that was in that trailer there that no more dangly feet when you're climbing. Like it actually matches up, and they find foot grips for you, or at least in that specific clip.
Add trackers, then you can see your legs swinging like they should be. That'd be cool, right?
And once again, our friend Brad here, earning his keep, pointing out to me a tweet from Brandon last year that says, quote, "To fit your real body to your avatar's body, Bonelab prompts you for your height and t-shirt size. There's also a fine-tuning menu that lets you enter height, chest, underbust, waist, hips, wingspan, and inseam."
Wow, they really want to get that's going to really get you down, man. That's a lot of info, and I bet that really does help, right?
You know what else I heard, Brad? I heard that, and this is a rumor; it's not confirmed, but I heard that using the face tracking cameras on the Quest Pro, that they're going to be able to scan your real face into this game and put it on your avatar.
That's crazy.
That'd be crazy if true.
How cool is that for multiplayer, and especially for family members, like your family member across the country? You're not looking at some shitty ass fucking jank thing that they made. And I'm sorry if you made a really good family member out there that made a good avatar. I didn't like it, but I think it'd be cool.
But yeah, this seems like a modder's dream, man. I mean, especially, I mean, how many games on Quest even support mods? I mean, people are going to be able to develop these mods out on PC, and some of them they're going to be able to bring over. It's going to kind of open things up for, Quest gamers, those out there who don't have PC. They're going to get to kind of experience the freedom that comes with modding, unless you're a member of the VRChat community. Of course.
Well, I was going to say, it's going to be like the VR
mods
chat,
for
though.
you.
You're going to want the PC version. As amazing as the Quest version is, like, there's so many things you can't do in it, right? For VR chat, I would imagine it's going to be the same thing. You're going to have this really cool experience and be like, oh, sorry, Questy, you can't come, which kind of sucks, but that's a good reason to build a computer, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like with all this avatar customization that and emphasis on mod, they say literally a third of the game is modding. So
It's crazy.
like maybe this is the VR chat competitor
Ooh,
that we
We've
were
been waiting
talking
for.
about coming to fill that space, right?
yeah.
I think that's a big market that's not tapped very much. And like there's another platform-esque title being worked on that has VR support, and that's
Ooh.
called Sandbox. And it's being made by the developers of Gary's Mod, and they're making like
Ooh.
Oh
on
my
Source
God.
2 engine and everything, and they're basically doing the same thing. They just want to release a platform game that people can make content and have multiplayer and do whatever they want. And
Dude,
this
Gary's
sounds
mod
like
is so big. Like, it was so big when it hit. Like, so you get one coming to VR, like true Gary's mod. That's huge. Looks like Wormsworth says fist and sunglasses, giving us $4.99, and Simplex, Polish VR devs rock. Love you. Well, they are the best in the business, in my opinion. It's seemingly right, Wes.
I mean, per capita, I think Poland takes the crown, man. Like every time I see an impressive new game from an unheard studio, it seems like it comes from Poland. So I will agree wholeheartedly with you, Simplex. Thank you for the donation.
Yep. Absolutely.
Anyway, let's move along to some more creative use of the Oculus/Meta Quest 2's many new and unique features. Myst update adds hand tracking support and more on Quest. This again from Harry Baker, Upload VR. A new update is available for Myst, which adds hand tracking support and other requested features. Players can now use hand tracking for the entire Myst experience from start to finish on Quest with gestures for smooth locomotion and other interactions. You can also seamlessly switch back to controllers whenever needed, so you can easily swap between the two input methods depending on your situation. Quote, implementing hand tracking in Myst seemed like an exciting technical challenge and a cool new feature to bring to players, said Scion Development Director Hannah Gamiel, speaking to the Oculus blog. Additionally, it's one of those things which makes sense for Myst. We already have a ton of options that make the game accessible to folks, and this is just one more way that people who otherwise couldn't experience Myst can now play the game. There's also a new classic videos mode, which adds in the original Myst videos with sound for most of the character interactions. Plus, there's a new in-game journaling system.
Oh.
allowing you to take in-game screenshots for reference with an in-game photo album. The developers say this should help you mark important information for reference without having to take your headset off to write anything down. And I'm not going to go through the rest of the article, as it's just a basic review of the game. What do you think, Ruuts? Like, is hand tracking going to add a lot to this game?
For me, no, absolutely not. I still think hand tracking for the most part is at the gimmick stage. I mean, if you really want to do it, it is getting better. It's definitely a game that doesn't need feedback. So again, so it's not like one of those ones where you're gonna say, "Oh man, like I was missing something." I just it wouldn't make me want to go play it with hand tracking. Not at this point, anyway.
Yeah, well, typically I would agree with you here, and for the most part, I do agree. This game doesn't need hand tracking, but I do think that that this game is more suited for it than your typical hand tracking game. Like normally, these games seem completely gimmicky that use the hand tracking. Myst, on the other hand, the simple sorts of interactions that you use in this game, I mean, you're basically interacting with the world in a very on-off sort of fashion. You know, everything you can interact with is either one way or it's another. And again, like you mentioned, it's not like there's you need a lot of tactile feedback with these sorts of interactions. This was originally a point and click game. So, I mean, if there ever was a type of game that would be well suited for putting the controllers down, it's that. So I am moderately interested in it. Again, a lot of it, though, is just the techie in me wanting to see what they were able to do with it. I know that this studio and these developers are a supremely talented and innovative group. So I think more than anything, it's just curiosity with me. But again, this is a masterpiece of a game, and I do think that there are certain scenarios where maybe putting the controllers down and using your hands, if it works well, could increase your immersion. Brad, are you a fan of hand tracking 2.0?
I still haven't got it yet on my quest. Lol. But I do want to add, like, I think I do agree, like a slow paced game like this, it could be really fun. Just to grab things and turn things like with your hands. I think that's a very natural place for it. The one thing I always think about with hand tracking, and I think more people should maybe think a little bit about it, is while I do think controllers for gaming is like the way to go for sure. One thing I like about the hand tracking thing is I think it might pave the way for not like VR gloves, so to say, but like if you could attach like haptic things or things to your hand, like finger clipped or like things that clip on your fingers or stuff, and like add that extra bit of feedback to things. I think there's a lot of interest there that I'm more excited for hand tracking.
That's the thing.
Anyway,
Without feedback, 99% of games are going to feel weird. Something like this wouldn't, because like Wes said, it's like literally hitting this, turning this on, turning that off. Even a game like Eye of the Temple, I think would be pretty good, because you're just kind of walking around. Now, somebody said in the chat that, man, they made an interesting thing. How would you like? Well, I guess it's what, teleport. How do you move with your hand tracking? Am I doing like?
They said it was gesture based.
Okay.
I don't know what the specific gestures are, but we've seen similar things in other games. I'm sure it wouldn't feel the most natural. In fact, I mean, if you weren't going to use your controllers at all, you would want to switch to teleport on this. Like, at least I would consider that. If I don't have a thumbstick, well, why don't we just hop around?
Right.
But I'm sure that they have something. Maybe you put your hand up and kind of move like this and turn like this, you know, which again, stuff like that would pretty much break my immersion. But
better work well, better be intuitive, you know, otherwise it's exactly that. It's going to be really, every time I go to move, it's going to break me out of immersion.
So, I don't know. I think this was kind of the impetus for my question I already asked Brad this morning. If we could ever see this type of support come to PC, this is a perfect game for it because, we love Myst on Quest, but let's be honest, the best version of it's on PC. So you kind of have to choose. Do you want the most beautiful version or do you want hand tracking, right?
Yes, I want both, but I want the beautiful.
You know what I want, Ruuts? I want to shoot stuff in VR. It's kind of hard to get that wrong, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. You pinged on the Combine's radar. Get ready for company, Alex. They're coming. Alex. Keep going like this and the Combine will be packing their bags and leaving Earth through the nearest portal. I'm going to need to step out for a moment.
Half-Life Incursion brings new wave-based combat campaign to Half-Life Alyx. It's the hat trick for Harry Baker. Upload VR. Half-Life Incursion is a new mod for Half-Life Alyx that adds a 1-hour campaign with wave-based combat and randomized enemy spawns. The creators describe Incursion as an hour-long campaign with non-linear objectives that offers more challenging combat than the base game. Well, that's a relief. You'll be able to choose your own weapon upgrades and forge your own path through Incursion, which is set in an open environment with random enemy and ammo spawn locations. Not only will that keep you on your feet, but it should vary the experience on subsequent playthroughs. It says you can check out the trailer in the tweet above, which we just watched. But here's a short description from the Steam Workshop listing. When Alyx Vance is caught on the wrong side of the quarantine zone, she only has her wits, guns, and Russell to help her get back to City 17. But it won't be easy. The Combine have her trapped at one of their checkpoints, and she'll need to manage her resources and use clever tactics to escape, or stick around for some target practice. The mod is a collaborative effort between a small group responsible for the voiceovers, level design, artwork, scripting, and more. Brad, whenever I talk about Half-Life Alyx mods, of which there are many, I always kind of class them right off the top into two main groups. And there's the one group, which are the basic Half-Life Alyx mods that use all assets, voiceovers, everything that was in the original game, and just kind of rework that into something new. And then you have the really talented guys who go in here and change things on a very fundamental level. This looks like it's going to fall into the second category, right?
Yeah, I mean, doing all the randomly generated stuff, that is something that is usually to do a little bit more work, and it's a little difficult. I know how the Alyx modding works because I've done it myself, and it's like the Source 2 engine is, first of all, like, tools are just a pleasure to work with. Like, any developer who would compare like Unity to Source 2 tools, they'd be like, oh my god, I wish I could make every game on Source 2. It's just so nice and easy to make levels and stuff. But for Half-Life Alyx, the engine is pretty closed down on what you can do. So even the small things like having randomly generated enemies or randomly popping up ammo or whatever, that's definitely a step that you have to put in the extra direction. So definitely talented people here.
You were saying that the people responsible for this mod, these are known developers, right? So decorated people.
Yeah. One in particular, he's been playing with modding Alex ever since the game came out, and his full-time job is actually like a level designer for Ubisoft. So again, it's fun to see like a AAA developer in his free time just want to build something like this for free for Alex. It's awesome for people like us who love playing Alex mods.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is super cool. And Ruuts, I mean, this type of short arcade style experience with supreme randomization, a lot of people call these roguelike elements, even though the maps are going to be staying, the map itself is going to be staying the same. But this type of game, this type of experience has been all the rage in VR in recent years, especially on the Oculus Quest. Pretty cool to see something like this, which typically these games are pretty fun. Something like this coming to us now with the richness that Source 2 on PC has to offer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it gives you replayability. What is that one that everybody was raving about? The contracts or whatever. And we were saying it was good, except for exactly what you said. There was no randomization. The guys were always coming from the same place. Everything was always the same. You take that same contract thing and everything, they're coming from different directions, like it really does. Any amount of randomness makes a big difference. So.
Oh, dude, we went in and played After the Fall last night, me and my family, and we just did the regular Skid Row run, and we were inside the apartment complex on the first floor, and as we always do, we were running to the other end of the hallway to clear it before we went downstairs, and then the enemies spawned on both sides of us, so they started coming out of the room. And they started coming up the stairs. We hadn't even gone downstairs yet. They started coming up the stairs on us. And just that one little bit of randomness made that area so much more fun. Because, as you know, that game can be quite repetitive. So
yeah, anything that gives you, changing things up is good, for sure. I think it's really exciting.
Yeah. Anyway, really looking forward to checking this out. Man, I think we could do a month on just Half-Life Alex mods now. Because I still haven't tried the Return to Rapture Chapter 2. I haven't got into that yet. And is Levitation out yet, Brad? Do you know? I forget.
I think it's not out yet, but I think very soon, if I remember correctly.
And that one looks pretty awesome, too.
Yeah.
Just hours. It's crazy how much mileage you can get out of that game. Like, even if you bought it on sale for 50% off, like, crazy amount of content.
Yeah, it was what, $30 last couple weeks ago. That's a steal of a deal.
Yeah, well, we take it for granted, don't we? Like when people say, "Well, I'm new to PCVR. I finally did it. I finally built a PC. What should I buy?" We always go to all these other amazing games, and we forget the granddaddy of them all, right? Half-Life Alex. That should be the first thing you buy.
Dee said that when she gets her computer soon, that's going to be her first PC VR game she's going into is Half-Life Alex.
So excited. Anyway, headlines quickly winding down, although I do have one more update I want to make sure everyone knows about before we go home. Okay, so this is a dev update from the Sweet Surrender blog on Oculus.com, and I'm not going to read it word for word, but I did want to inform people about this update because this is the 7th major update to Sweet Surrender since we covered it, and by the way, gave it a favorable review. This new update adds a whole new level to the map again. This is actually a sewer level that lies underneath the mines that you start the game in. So this actually provides you an alternate route to get to the city levels above, which is super cool. It adds more variability. This is exactly the type of game Ruuts that we were talking about a moment ago. These fast arcade style shooters that have roguelike elements and randomization. But I mean, this game has had hella updates since we were in it. And man, I'm just so impressed with the continued work these developers are putting in on this one.
That's crazy because the game was already good. They're adding more content to it, which obviously we want more content, but quality of life updates are big, right? Fixing things that maybe didn't work well or adding different. I like that thing. I don't know what exactly they flung it up and it kind of went in his wrist. Looked pretty cool. But yeah, Wolvie says this is more his type of game, fast paced, and this is cool.
Yeah, as I would suggest that anyone who's interested in this go to the Oculus page and read this, because as you'll see as Ruuts scrolls down here, this is a huge update. I don't call it a major update by mistake. I mean, they've done a lot here. Of course, there's the new district with new enemies that are exclusive to it. There's new upgrade chips, new grenades. There's new acid-themed mechanics, it says. You can burn away your enemies while avoiding corrosive environmental hazards. The big one for me, Ruuts, with this type of game specifically, was kind of the same thing that happened with Returnal. It was a big thing. You can save and quit now during a run. You don't have to start over if you don't want to finish your run out. This game's getting big enough to the point now that you have to invest some real time into it if you're going to have a hard run. So now you can save it and quit and pick your run up when you get back.
I'm shocked. I thought you were going to say improved Korean translation, but actually, for me, that's huge because like this game, the levels are big. And I don't know how many times, like you run out of time or something happens. I'm in between. I got stops. My job by design, I've got hours in between stops. I go home, hang out for a couple hours, and then go back out for a couple more bed bug jobs or whatever the crap they're having me do. And so I'll constantly checking my time and, oh shit, I got to get out. Well, you just lost the last 45 minutes on this level, bro. So I think that's a really good, probably one of the best ones. Absolutely.
Brad, as I read down this list of improvements, I noticed one of them being added live support on Steam. Are you familiar with this game? Have you played it at all?
I've not played it, but because they added live, it sounds like I need to get right on that.
Yeah, it's fun, man. If you like these kind of roguelike arcade shooter games, this is a really, really good one. Of course, I mean, there are a few telltale signs of the mobile hardware here, whereas it's not a true roguelike with completely randomized maps, but rather a kind of reshuffling of familiar areas. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about there. Also, the trademark cel-shaded graphics. But if those type of things don't put you off, this is a really fun game, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, that's going to wrap up headlines and get us into the week's reminders. And not a lot coming out this week, which, I mean, that might be depressing for some, but for me, Ruuts, I'm kind of excited about being able to play what I want to versus what's coming out. Although there is one notable release that I noticed on Steam. It's a game called Robocracy. This game is scheduled to come out tomorrow on Steam VR. This from the developers of Galactic Rangers VR. Here's the good news, Ruuts. I mean, this is another, again, fast-paced arcade-style shooter. Supports co-op, PvP, all that good stuff that we like. Looks really good. Here's the bad news. I could not find 1 second of video footage of this game. Not even like a cinematic trailer. There is nothing out there, friend.
Hey, you notice how I've got a still picture. My thing was because I spent like seriously when I was making the thumbnail, probably or not the thumbnail, doing the scenes, like 45 minutes looking for it, and I thought surely Steam will have it. This game's coming out tomorrow. No, so at the time that I was putting the scenes together, there was 23 hours until it comes out. I don't know if this is a good game or not. I don't know if it's a good sign that there's no footage out there. But that doesn't mean
there's
shit.
5 screenshots. There's 5 screenshots. That's all there is.
Yeah. And you guys are looking at one of them. This is actually it's a good screenshot, but it doesn't tell me anything. Hopefully, I'm crossing fingers. I guess we'll know tomorrow how good this thing is. I don't know.
Anyway, I have reached out to the developers because I meant what I said. This looks pretty cool. I think we could have fun playing it together. But only time will tell how it turns out, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That brings us to our next reminder this week and every week. This is the part of the show where we ask all of you to join us and participate. Let's do our part to support the development community out there as we all go in real time and wish list a game. It could be one of the games we talked about today or something else that you've been thinking about wanting to check out. For me, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. I want to check out Yupitergrad 2, so I'm going to Steam right now to wishlist that. What are you going to wishlist, Ruuts?
I would say that you copied me, but you actually had that in your notes, so you didn't. I copied you. I'm also doing Yupitergrad 2 because that game's amazing. And if you're not going to play it, I question your soul. So.
Participate, Brad. This is important to the devs, okay? They always ask people to wish list because it raises their profile on the store and it allows them to accurately gauge user interest. So are you going to wish list the game with us today?
I'm going to wishlist the Sweet Surrender VR game.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I'm going to be a shill for my company, and they added live support, so I feel I have to do that. No, okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to check out all the games that and see if it's good or not. Let people know, right?
Yep, absolutely.
We all aspire to be professional shills, Brad. Don't forget.
I like to I like to say we try to bring the good VR experiences to people through a lot of different avenues.
Definitely.
So for what it's worth, the Yupitergrad 2 people say that it will be released when it's perfect, and then they have a little picture of a kitty cat emoji.
Well, I bet the Gamecats really love that. I think that's what I want to hear from every developer. I don't want to hear a deadline. I don't want to hear that it's coming out in May, and then May gets here and it comes out and it's a janky mess. How many big games? Now these are flat, but how many big games this last year came out? Dog shit, New World, whatever it was. And if they just sat back and done like a From with Elden Ring that came out flawless, perfect. Well, aside from some of the PC stutters, it's a big difference, right? Like I just think that the good developers will take their time, and I get it. There's deadlines, there's money, and there's a lot of other things going on behind, especially with the big studios for working with Sony and other companies where or Oculus or Meta. And they're like, this is the deadline. But it just is important. It's more important than the devs. You can't just roll out a driver or an update like that. That's killing too many games. It needs to stop, I think, anyway.
Anyway, thank you to everyone out there who did their part and participated. Please let us know in the comments down below what you wish listed this week. Anyway, that's going to bring us to our final reminder this week and every week, and that is how you can do your part to support us, our channel, our community, and help us to grow. Of course, if you're new, the best thing that you can do, click the big red button, ring the bell as well so that you can be notified next time we go live, which should be quite a few times this week. I'm home from work for a little while, and I haven't been playing VR, and I'm about ready to climb back in.
How's your foot doing? Is it getting better?
Slowly. It's still swollen, man. Like 2 weeks to the day since I injured it, and it's still not normal. And I'm off work for 2 more weeks.
Well,
So
thank God you're able to stay off your foot. That's really good.
yeah, thank God I play VR seated most of the time. Right?
That's true. It's not going to affect you at all.
Anyway, for those of you who are already subscribed and would like to do a little something more, you could do so by supporting us on Patreon. $3 per month, that's all we ask, and that will get you access to our weekly show notes. By the way, hours before the show even goes live, you get our weekly show notes, you get insider updates, you get exclusive content, all for less than $1 per week, and you get peace of mind knowing that you did your part to help build up our community. So shout out to our patrons. We got a new, you also get your name on the outro crawl when we do the outro, and we got a brand new one going up today because we have 2 new patrons this week. Mark Finley.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Mark Finley. You're awesome. And O'Doyle, who, as we all know, rules.
O'Doyle rules. Yeah, he does. Badass.
So, yeah, thank you, everyone, for supporting us on Patreon. We're up to 25 now.
Wow.
Actually, 27 if you count Scion and Guido, who pay in real life money. We're up to 27 now. So you guys are
Guido
awesome.
last night contributed to Dee's computer and bought a motherboard. And
Wow.
really nice motherboard. So
Shit, man.
now she just needs the memory, the fan, and the cooler for the processor. That's it. She's like really close. And mash to send
Man.
the 2080. And so her computer is right on the edge.
That's awesome,
Isn't that
man.
crazy?
How cool is that guy, man?
He's so awesome.
Get this, Brad. So this guy, Guido, he's a guy I work with at my factory here locally. Like, he was flat gamer. What would you say, Ruuts? 3 months ago, he was a flat gamer. 4.
Yeah.
And this isn't a guy I particularly talk to all that much. He works in my department on a different shift. We say hi in passing. One day he hears me overhears me talking about VR to someone else in the locker room, starts asking me questions. I give him the channel. Within probably 2 weeks, he buys an Oculus Quest, and he's hooked. And now he's like one of the most active members of our community. The guy hands me $100 bills in the locker room. Like, amazing community member and a great dude. This dude, Ruuts, he sent me a message last week asking me how my foot was, offering to come up here and mow my lawn for me. Like,
Wow.
That's crazy. What a good guy. Right?
awesome dude. Yeah. Shout out Chris, Guido. We
Such a
appreciate
good
you,
community,
bro.
man. Like, I think we take it for granted because there's a lot of good communities out there, but they're not as good as ours. Yeah.
Anyway, we invite you to join this community in our home. And by our home, I mean our Discord server. You'll find an invitation in the description down below to our Discord channel. We're a community of lurkers, but we're always there 24/7, talking about life, talking about games, whether they be flat or VR, hooking up for multiplayer, sharing streams, sharing news articles. It very much is a family atmosphere, and we invite you to become a part of it. All you got to do is click.
Yep. Come home. We miss you.
Brad, thanks for hanging out with us, man. It was a long one, but it was fun, man. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a great time too. Thanks. Thank you.
You got anything going on that you'd like to tell the people about?
Keep an eye out on my blog, Muse website, sadlyinreality.com. I'm working on it's a mess of an article, but it's I'm trying to timeline every single data mine we did for Steam VR just to kind of give a hint to how long Valve's likely been working on this project and all the improvements, so people can have that clear picture. So
That's cool. It would be cool to kind of have a nice summary article to kind of see where we've gotten to where we're at, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, I always have these things in my mind that I see the connections because I've spent so much time. So I think it'd be nice to have a actual place people can see.
Do you have post-it notes all over your walls with pieces of yarn tacked between them?
He's got the map going. Oh man, that's what I picture. That's what I picture.
I see it floating around in my eyes. People usually have floaters. I have Steam VR strings in my eyes.
Oh God, I'm sorry. I don't know if you noticed, but our motif here, it's the Steam VR void.
Traveling
Anyway,
man,
this is where
getting
this
in the
is where
last.
Brad's.
Okay.
I would say this is where Brad's going to spend his eternity when he finally loses his grip on reality. He's just going to be lost in the Steam VR void forever.
I'm waiting for for real. If there was somehow you could push a button, Wes, and just fall backwards and spiral out that door as we left, that would be so badass. Traveling Man says throw in a $5 donation. Great to see all the game cats here. Wes does lead the way, and I think you're doing an amazing job over there. You and Brian and the crew, and just what you're doing is you're opening eyes to the whole picture as far as what's outside of PSVR. Because Brian's so good at that whole realm. You're even showing him the way. It's amazing. I think you guys are a great pair.
That's very nice of you all to say. Thank you, Traveling Man. Yeah, we've infected the community for sure. But I'm sure we're going to be making a hard right whenever PSVR 2 gets here.
Well, we're going to
be
want you. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Anyway, I think that's our show. And with that said, friends, I'd like to thank you all once again for watching. For Ruuts and Brad here, I'm Wes. We will see you very soon. Goodbye.
Take it easy.